When cannabis law police departments on certain parts of the cannabis industry destroying consumer trust to get fear of Catholic 6 and 24 law songs and nation of rely on federal team protecting hospital has leaders away cannabis cycle. No record one is Canadian 30 way concept. Livers are greatly on ideals and rely on restrictions from your use consumers and fees. Increase of the line of rights and rights of less than wrong with traffic for the decision of trying to get your confidence out and start with the process of experience training so that I'm saying that you should allow it simply to declare I could be medical this process or companies trying to register have problems for and for you it's trademark all on your love to African enforcement grade for cars that's litigation marijuana companies in local state with the process of fracking you have to take us but it is for fracking with the state registration being license there are blocking by several statutes certain document president is to obtain registration of often only managed answer with fairly popular applicants so only certain federal registered local people except law for the entire industry cause mass denial of trademarks preventing crackdowns on legal spending with the Consumers of the recognition taxes, can safety friendly game office, police and law enforcement preventing restrictions provided only good law, and police marks up to take happens and better labels, take advantage of you, take it safe for the district, people that want to come enter the block, you like, protect us, speaking back to the South America, double engagement, rely on the agencies, facility conflict marijuana is the most underregulated venture of Chinese organized crime lobsters, 24 black market production for gangster of illegal marijuana, 1,000 Chinese law for skill across the US, drug traffic from legal Chinese side, the operating gas and the list for gender form, using illegal groups of the less, news spots of front of the funds of the response to burgers back. It's taking little words over industry back to the order of one per day now for the civil alarm, water for female and explosive really saw. 23 criminals, UFO representative by taking contact advantage of a lot of criminals, Spanish and full Chinese of it's often known in Australia or Eastern Europe, depending on the US Australian basis of collaborative special all parties, Oakham's first destabilization, guaranteeing drawing, and escalation and sanctions saw, which was your decimal, the arms and San system are inflating and continuing around possibly any conflict providing support, nature and production power, new back to those are kind of for insulin blockage reduce overcoming development, new great process because those are 30% opportunity for access fertility by cost or influence that are starting down the line. These are about any cars to get the confidence in there. Lot of federal eligibility is a new constraint, not industry expenses, and Nature 24. Restricting access if he's reputable look at the possibility of drug offender, people that's this drug access to popular it's up to the red September agreement between Brad and the partnership, instituting board investment we value the spirit that was talking and seeing around that use of the purposes to defend unfortunately litigation another state the impacts of the rejected harmonization brand level bully. INTA 23, the annual investment near impact global brand level because it's not what kind of harmonization basically the global companies to stop stressing this other launching investment really talks negotiations and framework rather than the cannabis sector is either broader sustainability, agriculture and beef, so GO 21, what something not against because of the health of the already limited amount of attack, health of institute, the absolute doctor, crop taking from virus, and environment, flow of use of nitrogen, need to feel really skin, the complementary loss, attracts all the greater nutrition of the salt, these fibers. When they take that water down, it's productive very much for the environment. Then I can give you future extinction from societal and ecosystem possibility. 23. Strong relations between these developing platform things will send you to work about it. Yeah, I feel like how costumes and the other one. You don't know what you're in front of us. The carbon filter or store violence over the water lens for conflict with the house. The flash point by person to single different I very high. Dress particular regulations people but not concrete water for the data to reduce selection the you do more well work. These emergencies pedestrians water space wildfires to start being connected to bringing activities from the basic experience of your guys right there. And it's other than the ability to share the guidance. I feel completely that you just cross access to the work and some decision be cost attention and for years we have 25 years about this problem money that plans are for vital it's actually kind of orders they have to population but loss of medical sectors agriculture sustainability we brought attention to 22 legal we're working at national compact law to put in some program now to bring the environment as the national we need to find this for the people who are connected to self and some projects sustainable really absolutely. So the password also important questions every single human effective innovation process to ready for board another green 18. Cannabis from really was concerned people recently called it earth writing a church, if it performs the requirement impossible, there's even for a lot of these Latin Latin threshold text make years ago, and term of practice all the regulatory parts that would be regulatory type. In the term of reason it's a second top allocation side of the product construction or just for reason office you got user keep up with me and the second we come from the very by the company track. There's a United States federal government should threaten extradition domestic trademarks or releasing registration. Refusals made on the basis that trademark unlawfully violates federal statute. If that issue is overreach, lawful use to carefully orchestrated regulatory reviews only that's all by which to achieve. All these are administration law, federal laws, other agencies, authority, need discretion, need to be held in references on sanctions, people like agencies, to not proceed, serve carefully or to merging them, right on the beauty, cost of related history, back, actually, get cycles, but not ready, and recommend laws of all the United rights to drop record, in registering for no need, possibly limited, the limitations, briefly graphic novel, patent arbitrary, from graphic novel, also, the single applies to the property, the direct love reviews policy, we put agency provide letter, later, the examiners of legal things, the agency tax, agency reason, speaker, 20 need to cover out the fact that prosecution is specific, recommending most of the relevant consider employees on local tax, the end, fully rather than bringing it to the that's what constitutes we distribution and when some of the actually result in situation of the person using for human and it creates back to portion of the FTCA. We read that 17 I think of the case on back to the part class action data part class to go expanded there not while using documents for registering the risk space second law of space and FTCA. Something from legacy to structure which is also to fall flat mark 24. Uses this phrase more shorter than the costs of the class and drug shorter company manufacturing disruptive quality. It should supply problems on to responsibly with productive measure like the more expensive products. See the pattern of that well supply. We read it to the place of working out what standards mentions the short period what is the part during the format of litigation for losses in pharmacy like different by like fall advertising very competition about active force see it was just absolutely vaccination costs the entire health system and disease with health force. We try to work with it for the last time to supply programs to help storage people honestly that have investments also prepare original concept of trade by company with results direct medicine and this house to about well, that's how much of taking versus the large data. Early is why part of the power of the very early past today. We got the small portion of the order that is probably that is class for food experience and it's it is out there to directly for ourselves in the capacity. How much harm on this classic which chance participation you got pretty saying this one constructing for the novels of the long years of two things times you have to follow you said every share operation with the city cascade part actually lost starts that enforcement of policy. Instead of working next year, farmer enforcement of carefully main public policy institute for parties act by getting percent of the policy and improves the base consistency with law. It's also about the transcendent because of the farms and positive that we recovery for policy act enforcement of the even for psychological control. I really policy of 7,000 virgin tech distinction responsibility. Checking out and government not to have to look at process effective really industrial no commodities and all these costs of are one of the needs of maybe many into 50% or average this is something that not part of the problem I was trying not for trial and error because our ability by law new technical laws of our city as a speech condition called uncritical innovation expression ideas or no person that is the complex we are into the relation outside I can be constant and we come back to the outside and very more responsible than because already exists not written well.
First, who are the organized terrorists or criminals that would cause?
Our evidence lists groups in Asia, gangs in places like China that would sort of destabilization.
Do you have any specific names for the groups, or do you know like the precise thing? More specific than just
so the examples of those groups could include the Sinaloa cartel, which the current illicit weed farms are currently laundering money for, and it could also include terrorist groups.
I'm just partly decreasing like trade in China and other countries with things like tariffs and like border restrictions. How does that not mean that Chinese people would not be able to like smuggle in nuclear weapons through like weed or whatever because China's decreasing like tariffs or increasing tariffs? We're gonna take them first.
I'm confused why that impacts their ability to still import.
Well,
things still get imported from China. It's a lot cheaper to manufacture things in China. It's a lot more than
things like tariffs or border control. How would that not mean there would be a decreased risk of people smuggling in things to their weapons?
I mean, sure, there's some amount of increased rate, but we think it's still very high because it's much more than 145% cheaper to produce things in China still from the US.
On your nuclear, like the nuclear war impact, why do people not turn to smuggling things like within like other kinds of like plants, not marijuana, in order to get nuclear weapons in? You prevent like smuggling of like with marijuana, why wouldn't other people just turn to like other medicines?
Because our evidence says that smuggling within marijuana allows for the like detection or like a certain measure of detection, which other plants and whatnot not have.
What is special about marijuana that makes it undetectable?
I think it has certain special properties, Jimmy.
We're not reading the weed smugglers rules, so.
For the first advantage, you talk about carbonization and brand development globally. Do you increase carbonization at all?
We don't increase organization of all items.
Do you sell it to other countries like this?
We don't do
For the agriculture scenario, it talks about like nuclear weapons, volcanic eruptions, and aftershocks. Why would those things not be all causes of the agriculture like crops?
Well, our argument is that the app solves the war in other scenarios,
What
but
about
our,
aftershocks and volcanic eruptions that your card says would cause agriculture crops?
no, I think it's the other way around. Agriculture class will make us less resilient to different environmental.
It says that following catastrophic events such as volcanic eruptions or aftershocks can cause agriculture collapse. Why are these not all causes of that?
Well, no, our argument is that marijuana makes agriculture more, I guess, resilient in the face of that, because it prevents. Well, one, it makes plants and animals, it gives so it's more resilient, which we think.
How does it
means-
become resilient against an ash?
I mean, they could still stay like alive, I don't really know.
That's. It's
It's 5 off. And then case vintage 1, 2. And then I might have time for a 6 off.
But, let's go.
Alright. So 5. Yeah.
Oh, I can be honest.
Oh, Jeff, would you like me to speak closer to you?
Whoever's comfortable for you.
Okay. Has everyone got it?
Just give me a second.
Okay. Alright.
IPR protection or statute or court action is enforcement, not protection first of all. So when IPR is in the Constitution, IPR protection enforcement, IPR protection for legislative framework, IPR determine assets of protection, duration, protecting legal sanctions, IPR protection, judicial discretion, IPR enforcement, violation of the plan is court, federal limits, ground expanded, topic to include, illegal, unbeatable, outside court decisions affording the status of protection or expanding funding for one government agency that overstretches the negative burden that undermines forgiveness for all debates. Next off. Treating IPR protection means to help with rights under topical absence, make easier to acquire, broaden the scope of provide remedies for infringement. It's the actions for that reasonable to be practiced for copyright for review whether returning IP for protection afforded decisions. Receive either IP protection or strengthen remedies infringement violation. The plan does not strengthen IP voter for limits and ground expand the topic to include litany of unbeatable acts like first to invent anti-topical balancing tests and other process from that overstretch the negative burdens and undermine preparedness for all debate. Next off. The plan has eliminated extractivism from non-Western knowledge systems across the planet forces. 19% under federal research IP reason let diminish wisdom and independently sees every area of global notice exactly the levels of state goals IP colonizes. The directing from traditional new market systems. The plan is an extension of the colonial regime that objectivizes colonization, turning them into trophies of whiteness. Fact 20. Attributing centralism of whiteness within racial hierarchy, sponsored to public theater by the nation, the market racial imagery from the logics. I just want to sort of racial definition of political modification for another representation racial like versus amongst white. I humanize other accepted colonial understanding of the world of people coming out of the confusion trophies and colonial conquest and colonial extractive is not unsustainable, locks in end cycle suffering. To left, 24 from modernization, neoliberal index to the civic colonial establishment, historically, the atomic abominated people, Northern anti-technology, extinction, extractivism, I mean, vision, not getting any social, legal, normalized, structural persuasion bias, underestimating the process of main colonial mentality salt is decolonization, Tuck and Yang, so decolonization, absolutely instantly move their interruption, the movement, efforts to empower income the decolonization, long solidarity elusive, is the undermining of incommensurably acknowledged decolonization requiring the world breaking settler colonial trying to be representing native tribes in the decolonization, abolition, slavery, is contemporary forms of colonization, natively conducting anti-imperial outlet, there's so much incommensurable, so many overlaps, that can be figured, can be resolved. Next off, the 50 states relevant subjection of actors, reduced, registration of a refusal made on the basis of the trademark unlawful, applies federal statute conferred by intellectual property given the federal state the relevant subjection of actors to suspend the cooperation with the administrative federal government programs of the United States, reduce registration made on the basis of the treaty violates federal statutes concerning by intellectual property given dual sovereignty is necessary to incentivize the government and to check federal overreach precedent and for federal duty belonging from the nation for those states available in the federal harmful distribution policy themselves and this helps the use of the constitution of federal state level independently of the federal government and reproductive rights and federal government to preserve the constitution, challenge democracy and state-led checks against Trump are key to combat authoritarianism. Goodwin, the shopper, to 11 the power of acting representing gender abuse, American Constitution, no bigger embedded authoritarian rules and authoritarian cause a laundry list of existential impacts. So in 926 democracy underlying legislation has a rule of law must create a branch of the government democracy disease and the economy catastrophic democracy disease, reform that accidental common education, democracy, gender equality, the business equality, fight domestic violence to the human rights, investment system. Next off, the United States government should produce registration of refusal made on the basis that trademarks unlawfully violate federal statutes constrained by an intellectual property dividend, enacting a plan via an IP dividend reflexively weakens IP protection with it conflicts of social interest. Facing out the plan is a Jackson Brexit sentence. 1800 writing help is not a corporation global IP protecting public to the corporation level the number of corporations. The record the only game bidder with IP malfunction funded against renting out of the law no IP will so economic $1 trillion protecting now and within a little ones on the cooperation on creativity program fail and that's the look like economic security support tennis of the family help the game. You get the game changer unconditional publishable one copyright everyone has going to make money all the comes over DBI funds to accelerate public domain. IP with IP creation or IP dividend or eventually you went from IP for public domain in 30 years for limited exclusive. IP available IPs on the level for everyone to so long people that are living the IP and rest into the true purpose of common good, a common good and wealth inequality cause extinction and turns case student for income inequality and regional outcomes of the common for social interest of the wealth and economic environmental and talent risk. All these different whether any versions of decentralization called the high inequality was a covered foreign policy and next is the original the public good institution lead after growing consensus quality and the extension of shareholders short biases looking capital public good and lawful resilience and the institutional condition you can work with escalation violence increased polarization public and the lesson conflict and equal to West Coast public good on case. No organization of crime impact. I'm sorry. 15 weeks in the class of media capital suggestions, beauty priority, boasting, political terrorism not correlated with weak states, and it's not existential risk. Then 14, organized government business making money, kill reports, hostile ability, laws enforcement, laws, new areas times. This is not threat. It's not existential. Trump introduces broad uncertainty to the marijuana industry. Cabinet picks in unclear priorities. Deck the case. Downly, 25 Trump administration, obviously the legislative body for the legislative word gateway to community Trump administration and federal reform efforts in the overall environment of resilient. Bailey, as we important act revenue loss and less economic exaggerate for exit growth and tech and on having really good close messaging belong to the humanity will not progress and there are some trends and specifically no extinction for bees from I think the 60% of the world that's able to weed out problem not having extinction for bees, having bees and humans, we're not go extinct and no sustainable ag impact monocultures are better. Porter, Portland, 18 critical monoculture for the ecological really long ag positive impact mechanization weeding for that directly have the genetic monoculture benefits of the family of proper GMs and engineer protected against scenario of blight and cross-sex checks that the ag impact is stumped because they couldn't answer Lauren's question. So you know it's zero, but weed impact is wrong. It's about the cannabis therapy from nuclear release, but not preventing extinction from nuclear war because blast, megafire, etc. destroy, overruled. No disease impact, one actors in the immune system checks burnout and long range putting alpha, assisting any of the pathogen around vaccine departed around anti-markers controlling disease and non-performance disease all on means into the human thing. I'm looking 11 antiviral vaccines and 2 HSS layoffs, devastated oversight enforcement joy. Full of HSS label 100,000 27 initiative MBA the FDA interviews are terminated in domestic cuts and retreats from international organization. That ensures global disease bulky and Wong 324 times running the food invasion of the disease not several they have no desire to detect responding to the US diplomatic test and global pathogens responded to HIV, AIDS, and 40% of malaria, tuberculosis, bleeders, and WHO. I think the vaccine probably long outbreaks about 70% of millions of children HIV, AIDS, and 50% tuberculosis of CDC. Or working the direct disease not resolved that will spread at the globe. China started yet. China's not priority among larger threat and aid since 2017. Who has some Taiwan and China's country to global health since 2017 to 10. And everything DRA, who Hungary, Western China, UK, and health assistant in federal and France, and WHO, US needed to wear emergency disease incubator for threats down and cancer spread is theoretical and it doesn't ever reach extinction. It's stumped by
Using does not spread, but Julian is about extinction of species, not humans. When I see we read green. 50 years of golden single rare species extinction, no contagious cancer, that's occurring golf 16. I'm sure the rare reported cases of non-reported colonial cancer, not transmission, no evidence limited new checks in. Bruce Kahn goes neg and claims second innovation is the main driver of extinction. It's not reverse causal to why lawful use of trademarks creates good innovation. It even concedes IP is unwilling to create good innovation now. You know that the plan cannot solve it. We read yellow. I look at some conflict human and technology at the same time level of significant conflict in CNS and the completion company antibiotics AMR of the topic of human goals of digital human survival is 50%. I think the nuclear war engine pathogen or AI and human disability and technology part of the problem. I'm just saying human kind of welfare is literally IP incentivized to cater to, and any regulation IP does not address, and there's no emerging impact code at 20. I'm helping for innovation landfills and landmarks for innovation that is bad and we bad out, and for more innovation. I'll read the next talk. FTC will crack down on big tech now or must for 3. After the FTC taking major income from water into the active operating creating big tech, after the problem liability creating enforcement of big tech, and a lot of bipartisan address the concentration of big tech's power. I'm making this oligarchy big scourge of our country. Big tech hates strong IP, and they will invest millions of dollars to lobby for weaker IP sniffer, and for strong IP big tech for sympathetic small investment of 300 million Apple, and for legal against BMS and the US build systematic affecting the IP small companies, and legal recourse. Cut the part of legal recourse. The plan trades off Linktree, and for government to suppress global lobbies, and for what they're bigger battles to do with battles, and use intergroup limited research the possibility of government policy reach and agency groups as they have to perform and use them as the battles created as school pro, and create people legal space unrelated to other political capital contest. Cut the part of contest consolidation is an existential threat. Fukushima et al. 20. And for regulation, don't stop them when all the web to democracy get a lead the democratic competition compete, and the market says paper, extremist filter bubbles. The last card is marked at bubbles.
Are you good for context?
Yeah, let me get one. All right, I'm good.
The IP dividend counterpart, how does it compete?
So it competes off of protection of IP rights. You can think of it as a pick. So the Saturn's 18 card says that IP is bad now because it causes rent seeking, it jacks up prices, and it causes IP zombies. That's the language the card used. It says there's a Goldilocks zone where we could protect innovation like the plan. We can also prevent economic inequality. And it says by having a tax on the plan to basically like phase it out as it jacks up rent seeking is the best way to promote innovation and prevent economic decline.
Okay, so the only thing it does different from the plan is it taxes the profits. I assume how is that not still a strengthening of rights relative to the status quo?
Yeah, so it's not just a tax, it's a dividend. So it means that we would tax every IP holder who like uses the plan, like when like they file for trademarks, we would tax them, use that money for a universal basic income for the public.
Right.
That combination is key to
PBI is
expand
still
domain.
plan plus. I'm confused why the first part of the counter plan is still not
Definitely
strengthening of
plan minus. It says like for example, it says IP is something we grant collectively annually. Increasing the fee of IP goes up to an IP dividend. It talks about how we need to decrease patent rights and continue excluding IP from the public domain.
Right, it's talking about status quo rights, not the new rights of the plan grants, but that's fine.
IP
status good.
They're conditional.
Okay, the NGA counterplan is the IP dividend net benefit also net benefit to that.
Lauren?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a net benefit. What? Okay, trademark registration is.
Okay, I think.
Okay, it's just that internal. Registration is federal for trademarks. How do states have the authority to try to do the
Sorry, can you say that again?
federal trademark or trademark registration is a federal thing. How do states have the authority to do it?
Well, obviously, trademarks are enforced in district courts and state courts. We think that the counter plan by saying like the 50 states would not do the plan means it's impossible to enforce. And even if it's federal, it still has USFG follow-on to solve something.
Okay, sure. How does one IP policy solve Trump overreach broadly?
Yeah, so like basically the argument that we're making is like it's about like the signal that the counter plan would send. Like we think that the plan, as you've claimed, is a huge change to the status quo to solve extinction. If you're right, then this should definitely be a legitimate net benefit. If you're not, then I'm sure it's net on consumption.
Oh, okay. What about the plan results in increased extraction?
If you look at the VAX 20 card, it says trademark law creates a racialized hierarchy for whiteness. Sorry,
Right, that's about the status quo. What about the plan specifically increases extraction?
Like, so for example, registering trademarks for cannabis, like it could involve imageries of indigenous people. We think we've made a uniqueness claim that trademark law is always bad. If the plan strengthens it, it's worse for the sketch law.
8 minutes. The cannabis ban. After that, the overreach ban. Public health, must be Congress. Mandel. The coloniality critique. The IP dividends problem. The states.
When yes, over from impact to stimulus, the nation disrupt and they turn, and you look for response to public bullying and stuff. One thing number two that yes, it's an action is start from the Chinese terror, will strike you to stronger with cost escalation. One thing number three, Trump is or you need this proves that a trademark concern now, and the plan is to restore that signaling. One thing number four, yes, climate impact cost distinction one is worse climate increases than by 11% in accident conflict or research shortage and migration does, and especially over the native country second is ecosystem collapse, ice melts, eco data drugs, will kill billions, three side class from all their disaster by depleting resilience in ag, energy, labor, and health. That's what we're trying to get study. Sensitive, regards to the Bailey evidence from 2020 and also bias from the breakthrough institution. You should destroy the evidence when it's around 5 years pieces and then package drive ecosystem failure. They're about over 77% of all lives are caused plus 16 rapidly in 4 years now. But when it's number 60, a big X scenario we do not link to, we increase innovation, which means that we help big X make them more sustainable. Whatever, especially that it doesn't matter because we solve sustainability. Want to see number 7? This scenario is not which foods are in next scenario because agriculture is weak, accessible, and the plan is key to resolving it. When it's number 8, the plan is key to solving nuclear winter in the status quo. It reduces the radiation fallout, which means that we get no better buffer against nuclear threats advantage. Question 1 is number 1. Yes, this is the magnet cause extinction 1. It'll kill all the entire population by spreading between humans for redundancy. Natural sleep 1 virus strike past second. It causes civilization collapse from market and supply chain. Disruption 3 pandemics in future engineering. The stratosphere which causing a network catastrophe. Which is dropped from 1 is bomb. Now there evidence thoughts do not on effective stop a unique catastrophe. 1 is number 2. The card is about global health and honor scenario. Fragile supply chains, which is a unique cause catastrophe this as well because it relates to treatments for crucial diseases like cancer. One is number 3 is an natural link that's July for a week now. Any clients can solve it. One is number 4 yes, there's a cancer mechanism. Cancer causes things that will with ecological progression just across organisms affecting all organisms family. Killing it with perfect no. That's fusion evidence, yes, spread, no numbers or evidence specific. That's the animal vectors are spreading to humans now, which answers one is number 5, one is 6, and C because the research they not go with the impact which also answers and one is number 7. Go to see Congress. What we need a functionally defined could be Congress B. Sexually defined active vacuum is the only objective center anything else. Both intentionality, which is the first background protection, is spreading legal to the right owner crossed by their own manual evidence, which includes agency for law code guards 2000. Let's go over the second information and as well. And what's the analysis of the inspection for it? You have your for a precision to evidence of international knowledge. Diagram is the only potentially current definition. The background Congress not alludes to the policies and based on topic with major controversy. I know it's only agency US for Hanfield for functionality of your respect about work on campaign 5 reasonable legal good enough question the process of team and out. It is our definition. We meet because we increase our position of treatment and extend the scope of it and cross by reasonability. You answer for the you valid only. Well, we have to meet the consequences and functionally compared represent. One of some resolution of this because the office appears in the career to all of the and our questions rights effective because criticisms too. Things always continues to resolution of focus y'all. 3 both of like oral links for persons grow. First means that they are not genuine to present any criminal plans and industrial property increase follow form. No clear destruction in reference to growth not on history, innovation of president, but not only against yourself, security growth to go right there, time to growth activation or public public structure or actually correctly process on with check on restructuring which will lead on the process. 32 versus so that increased crop production 35% would reducing fertilizer expense coming with work farmers stop finding the planet and in turn the reduces criminalization weed which decreases policing against other genocide incremental reforms is good it costs the cost of violence one of the most perspectives we all have rejected this thing yeah zero any deficits for many cameras and angels sex all fails state of door trans family and religion over to commercial community crackdown to US history as the needs and centers to all liberty compensation see the cases that they offenders to march street so all these things it did them. One to become a restriction idea from causation and not is not an where the eventually doesn't include kitchen to be perfection idea is over the goal by 15 regularly or it's not the absolute the goals and for regular idea runs the current is unpredictable and unavailable to rights of PA as we rely on rights and effective to confidence and we then fish pretty much force the kind of ad hoc taxation and use this virus and large guarantee this important class of the industry that's Dixon archery location complicated doctrine with no workaround only clear statement how much results can be overreached that's what the 19 restriction on us right and how does the assignment which we will shape consideration of that which are like the education programs are how control will with ways you back you don't have place selection the argument with small but rest for our affiliation read both shield link forward to the plan and remove trademarks via dividends not intrinsic which remove rights to functional template by the plan to cover over other issues the rest can be functional effective key after research stage plan through the process of dividend quality one stuff for thousands of years two both the quality at all costs really not solve the good which Trump circumvents it or there's no terminal to laundry list getting new access 5 turn the company costs one extinction by which we have extinct of 6 only by growth seeing. Affectional quality out, supporting countries higher income inspiration is in relation to provide to take action quality farmers nation, all that repression is for the contribution for the country, generation community and making my quality one achieve affected relations, take them one prediction people shows that benefit two doesn't solve a must go to cover every single reference without stopping which is only achieving pressure the benefit divided on percent for registration and realize everyone fix and be reaction take themselves their own share process it's worthless to receive by federal law that very search cost number see is already solved which the US video policy states don't the authority to rewrite agency rules without strike down 3 to the combined borderline as the kind of force of US video provides it which is the benefit but not solving strictly conflict with paradigm policy which is project being a thank you outside of strict terms and conflict to be class plan back over something that really is installed it can be great learn theory that allows testing the suitable opportunity cost the UCF plan do that plan as the plan cost uncertainty that's the there is kind of anything about Congress know about from EPD no consequences to me the Congress person maybe single no I'm sure rather than being not see you have to show whether Congress rules and we actually somebody looking over the Congress cable everything which actually not saying but sure that was again version 14 gets which was the other version of ability the first paper in the other strong is essential first likely to say point standards do the plan and over other issues cross high sexual and functional competition do the Taliban there also there's no internal anus government really this one back as well that you go from looking over there substitution policies to cover no look at the country we have these now so we will have a very bench fix that that's system B unique system has now and some like struggle use this now see the actual feedback D for the common worse small C and from installation of 18 kernels and hundreds fairness and actual identity to local recreation negotiation for the bed it's actually preventing our coalition starting so the consequence of creating a state solution that's a lot of regime that's a regime that's particle and right also public rights of law is a solution any man for police and rights a large number adds up now
Challenge only got USDT action on person on rest of 1,000 pages, 600 factors, was going to bring policy comparison, objective game, because anything else. Due to TSD, no Trump attack, he himself comes, because he won't listen to states, your traditional manipulation, etc., or all outcomes to come out, or something which is not, fidget this act. Framing issue, no terminal ready, one is beyond we get new answers when they read an action impact, but one, you executive orders, and something and new instructional code. To that, executive orders to place and policy or federation, state was to say, and Republican Senator produce good reason to reduce that environment, and less, but I see you as a senator to rate, I should know who trying to use it, as when numbers, to dump, which is only by decades of long being narrowed, reading, polling, installation, and structural, under more, I recommend consolidation, consolidation, to non-related, like of the controlling table, who will have on the technique, somebody to acquisition, of the service and semi-effective, but you are incredibly numerous for the nature of the overall rest of the loss of information is that people really bring hard, pure, we need to sort of launch systemic policy in front of Trump, the Afghan change it by, if I only have these small firms, either resisting the fortune firms linked to the one. Copy and just paradox speaking as working, facility conflict interest, because of the same job, but I can tell you about the old power from coalition, because the country, how it's if there's no terminal impact, and also it's not intrinsic, because if you that's more enhanced, so back to dividends. Taxes go against one, commercial behavior, that is where you action comes from, with the taxes leader, not the not on the record, it's on the second very one, because some the tax bill regulated, of course. Back coloniality. Seller colonials not ontological and liberation possible record. Any the generic person when it comes to many someone to be in the progress section goes down. Eventually, social political information, there's a lot of everything. So those solutions are going to be on solutions before. And then I read the response, the little how to stop, other population will review and close on you like to tell. What do they call it? Response.
First, reasons to reject the team.
Conditionality, performative contradictions.
Wait, no, you said performative contradictions is the reason that we're not genuine, that's not.
Okay, yeah. And also non-US. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna start on the cannabis advantage.
Yeah.
You say Trump means it's plan uniqueness. How does the plan overcome decking international systems to check disease?
So, wait, are you talking about advantage one or advantage?
Advantage one.
So advantage one is about investment in trademarks, we think that any uncertainty is well. It's the reason that the USPTO should fix their policy and that breaks the perception that the executive.
Well, that's great for the USPTO. I'm talking about actual systems that check disease. You said that this is uniqueness.
Advantage one, we don't have a disease thing on advantage one, but innovation and
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna go on to overreach.
Yeah.
You say, the disease defense, oh, sorry, I guess this cross applies more to advantage too, then. You say disease defense doesn't answer knock-on effects, which knock-on effects?
So several, and one is bomb. One, it causes labor and supply chain disruptions that cause conflicts between countries. Secondly, it causes geoengineering failure in which countries will try to use new technology to stop
Okay,
that.
I have a question on that. Supply chains, COVID, how does this not come?
So, or that is supply chains or uniqueness. Or arguments that supply chains are vulnerable at post-COVID, which makes it more important for small pharmacies to survive, but they're being litigated now. So the plan is to keep protecting them.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to, oh, can you say the theory on the K?
Theory on the K.
Well, there was none.
I mean, it's yeah, private actors were there, I guess.
Okay, cool. I want to move on to the IP dividend counter plan.
Yeah.
You say that overreach leads to vagueness and circumvention. This card does not talk about tax at all. It's about the Land Act.
Oh,
The USPTO.
you read the Yan 21 card, which is more responsive to the taxation mechanism. Our argument is that taxation will lead to uncertainty. That uncertainty is bad because it allows the USPTO to overreach those standards by defining for themselves what is and isn't an overreach. So only the plan can constrain that if you got a sentence where you are taxing.
Okay, then I guess I want to go to the Yank card if that's the one that matters. It said it's about a new corporate tax. And it indicts a tax that had already been into place, the CIT. How, like, I don't understand why.
Like if you're taxing all intellectual property from big pharma and other companies,
That's great if this card was about IP, but it's about corporate tax. Can you
like you're presumably the dividend that you distribute with tax
It
corporations.
says taxes fail because they manipulate the price of stock, but that doesn't apply.
Oh, no, it's about indeterminacy and uncertainty in the enforcement of that tax. Taxation policy has sort of failed companies offshore, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not credible and it creates more uncertainty.
Okay, then I guess I'll probably end on the FTC disad. You say thumped because it's been narrow. What does this mean?
Our argument is lawfully scrupulously narrow and that FTC didn't shut down. So. Camera recording us? I do not, I don't know if that was. Okay. We'll definitely figure out when. We are. The part for you all the debate on these guys, like, you can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the weather is something hard. Like I get colder easily, and like I live in California.
Stuffy.
I'm cold there, and I'm really cold here. Okay, so we're just gonna be states, FTC, Suckall, advantage.
States, FBC, voting out.
Yep. I sent it like right as he got, but I was probably back in the box, so it's probably gonna take like a while. Is anybody not there?
Yeah, oh, wait, it's still.
That's fine. Yeah, you're fine. Fine, like that. Anyone have that? State Catholic would see the terms of justice as a combination, non-USFD views, which are the argument not the king. The term of the Catholic, the USFD, the United States mean that we are the USFD. There's no links to the theory, and I'm happy to see this out. Can see no internal link to the impact and the uniqueness of the problem link that means no office on the phone to this out. Second call. The main and the son of colonialism is how to this is the valuable which native bodies possess a structure wide to the colonialism what's the animals suffering down that extreme ecological destruction. There's no ethical relation to native self-decolonization. That's still the Torah of native one and the also same 16 narration with the self-decolonization was happening around the nation and into the which is the relation to the we're going to all the also the time transformation drastic and the level of divorce. This was a new one of the disruption of the Canadian colonialism with the origin of decolonization from the borders as a result of treaties of people not relying on animals to the world to rely upon the scale of the direction of the reasons and national governments and working as having to allow you to return to the evidence shape because we saw more conversations and the only thing that we could do was decolonization means that advance this is a opposition document also framework counter relation logic and ethical putting in the one I see not just the one should be the logic of can't be here. They're all these questions. What for this talking that? This is going to shots for all what's going to go to the Canada politics is that and yoga. And these are because no terms about idea. What if without was that and class bad and telling them to go to the classes that they decide to the global side of the and the suffering bad and is violent and be it's inevitable. One, two, three, for fixed small procedurals, why are breaking you? Absolutely one of these classes and inevitably individuals are created and invited to argue back yes. With the unique methods proven fairness is all throughout telling truth and good because I love to excuse to ignore the lazy discover tired from the two we are social fairness over the terms of equal fairness. Research is pushing and can't put out some debates out of avenues put some debates out of advantage fairness. It's just a reason why the goodness with areas serious is identities from the baby for one. Culture identities lots of these progressive unity of the only absolutely open to upside down and common discrimination in the individual. The protect negative by the Negro zero when it's offers restoration limit connected to a culture through resistance and domination of the white community. Resistance to goodness is by wise is the core other acts of addiction. There's law ways, colonial standpoint and continue irreversibly claiming the laws. The deaths of indigenous people, land and culture is also not reversible and continues to happen today. Extinction operates an excuse to ignore the lazy vote for tired from the 2AC, which we think is violent, unique, like breaking accidental versus necessary to open up possibilities for new social branches. They merely justify the status quo. Polar 414. It's not for the structure of the undermine the values for the generations and make function of masculinity. Between both their hair sex is not to be avoided by economic opportunities. Wait, get that card, moving on to the card. Property both is wrong, meaning ethical and worth are incompatible, either reused, the approach for bad things in the least overcheap or reused, the next ethical system of the actual instead of future we must be rejected. The purpose and act of reconciliation attempts to wash away from this, the negotiated settlement, which is another like poor tactic club, but it's speech between kind of wrath, over their holding, legally accountable for their law with injustice, recognize this ability, ultimately the justice of the faculty, to legitimize the status quo for that mass retaliation, being the land of education in itself is further injustice and emphasis on entrenched in a Western conception of laws, deep value, religious laws, when they object to research in the global south, watching notions of Western freedom that justifies accusation and violence. That was 419, and most specifically trophies of colonial conquest and marks others for consumption, and specifically indigenous people are dehumanized and causes indigenous violence. That's value. That's 20 of the planet's net increase in IP protection for the proliferating racial violence against indigenous people to be they like because they have conceded on we have conceded on t-shirt and that they are a net increase in IP protection, meaning that they cause more violence in the squad. They said that growth is sustainable, but it's not. First, it's not. Our blue card with line about growth, the largest about colonial track and material suppress suffering and violence is not the same as growth or economic or upholding the economy. Colonial how the extent of suffering through the good foreign criminals and terrorists is the bar 8. This single most common view of the colonial activity, I think it's the dropping of the terrorist center in the US and figuring it's in the region of the potential terrorists will be American, white, conservative, Christian, and Republican are actually and epistemologically white. They said in the process that they could only define one terrorist group from China, or not terrorist, they could only find one foreign group from China that was organized crime, which is only one example. The research originally said that they could consider just be people, and now you saw China with a large means that do not have specific impact or be divided as for one specific group will cause extinction and attempts to preserve biodiversity of each colonial logically and this colonial preserve the space of biological control. 17. Global is the elimination, neurological elimination, civil codes, and sound conservative operation of the serious consistent format of species spiritual around the half of the population, as well as the drastic development of necessity carving out territory that serves the relation to the constituted land itself and the activities of the private sector, innovation and pharmaceutical innovation of the process of cycle of legal and carry into the global side. GJI 23. Pharmaceutical within the global side starts in 97 reduction like this will be profitable, terrible, record, devising and that these electrical lower. It can constitute to republic as a cynical problem as much as anything that Android or TV judgment discovered and attributed with only the problem in the global development stroke still start and removal combination that that's power requirement leaving countries dependent on equal charity and ontology frameworks to ontology to say has never been beneficial to religions who only with claims of profit but do nothing but reinforce their power. A the justice and US the legalism you command the APL destroy indigenous lands of the world that the minimal indigenous lands are given back to them and be the Bureau of Indian Education students because they have to school because they lack funding the or assimilation of developments in the US citizenship because the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 decreased the sovereignty and right and most result one form civil colonies which only recruit to global empire. Even if they prove progress they must prove the plan is that beneficial to an indigenous people. Before will never right the so never prefer our evidence exclusive of the longest term request from 111. Before taking my knowledge because of the field of government and the smart and element procedures and the explanation and percentages television limited to process disciplinary by racism and simply rather than the shift out with the all industrial decolonization that is preparation of indigenous land and the dissolution of the United States federal government crisis over habits after abolition and what the consequences are for the July to the anti for decolonization which is as a framework itself. They were mutually exclusive with the plan and no one survived after the US is also not a private actor and the US and the US is going to reciprocity the assets of the implementation of the plan outside a physical district will mean because it's the all and framing the all is impossible. These are pushing the world to constantly but decolonization. This will never be good. That's another leg and practice in the soil. US is private companies like Tigers want to give advantage against the APL products. The league definitely doesn't solve the league definitely doesn't solve for the state. The only risk that the all goes in. There's a global movement for the ways of letting all colonial extraction. So now we're having the private people moving away from the United States now, meaning that there's still a possibility and you should still imagine even if it's even possible at all. Result the IP like it deletes the US and there's still more IP system and also legal work deleted US is better. Nuclear fires it doesn't spiral into causing extinction. All results of crime and abuse. US increases this organization of foreign actors and all result in environment like some of the links that can no longer be spoken to people or live in London across the Durban part that I read at the top level and all was also part of the US healthcare system that I checked and this is not to the power privacy and the removes harmful comments that Dr. Price will book the most up onto Condo. Clarification of our interest of Condo is going to get what we did. It's on a voting nation to protect the arguments on cheap, but regardless of my Condo, it's going to run next like spiritual black bias, make things stand up and you winning our arguments and asking sorry for and never having this topic disputed against the negative, no with unity, this time that no value of the night. These are flexible to adapt and have a fair chance and breath over that comics always a topic of making debate. All the questions to receive these reports and it's logical calls, people will not be forced to vote for that, and then it's worse to start with another to the rich shooting horse going to pass on it's worse. Then it's going to reasonably have a high work non solution theory to actually use goalposts and cause the substance crowd and this criticism was often clearly defined as the best possible time of the free price. Then it's next like you can see the action of the cultural advantage and for clients also, but the category taking contradict and we should be able also probably playing the different angles of one office and next one is racial black in the 90s possible to that. It's a trans topic with limited generic education to prevent innovation and advocacy side prevent from limited exposure to opportunity acting to negation theory for limited project you see that only has to prove that yeah it's a value to and you to and it's watching such a nationality so if we win internationality means that we were per con and really good too. Comments just started compared to 125% from 100 to over 4%, which is seriously decreased the amount of China we trade with the US means that's lovely. Scenario is zero. It's heavily decreased and we should see this in the process means that worse said it means that the scenario is decreased heavily means that there's low probability for it and our other impacts will outweigh and try to talk in the WHO means that response absolutely impossible to all one time same thing possibly every month but the WHO means that the whether the time of the COVID-19 is a crucial work by addressing the causes of disease but the health system preventing responding by the health care emergency they'll be not be able to not able to solve it and it's sent out to 16 there's no disease impact yet the other disease that lethal means it will not spread it will not cause extinction or if it's not lethal means that it cannot cause extinction because it does not kill everybody off means that there's a trade-off here and it shows to our for what ages it's later to say oversight for the man you can be said you cannot control disease but ages is key to solving disease.
Ready, Ross?
Let me go walk.
Let's start at the top of the stack. Okay, part that you read says that there are disruptions of things like wildlife, waters, animals. Trump has just started drill, baby drill. The USFG is launching mass military crackdowns on the environment. What does the alternative do to resolve those harms?
It deletes the US and causes.
So USFG has to bill to disband itself. How does the deal with Chinese overground groups, which are currently infiltrating and going to the US?
Well, first we have made the argument that the United States is prepared that causing Chinese invasion in the first place. And second, by moving the US and deleting it and causing decolonization, that means that people would not be like backing from indigenous lands in America.
Okay.
That would decrease.
USFG disappears. What form of government exists afterwards? Or
First, we do not think you have to answer questions of white futurity. That was our link on helping the NDCA. And second, we think that the US would just be deleted and then people
US
would
be
move to US.
deleted. So framework, I assume debate has some impact, educational impact on our subjectivities, right? So on FERCOM, why is NEGFLEX important?
Yeah, we have listed reasons for why things like app bias means that NEGFLEX is necessary to check against it. And second,
Why is it important to check out files?
yeah, so first, this topic is heavily skewed to the app. There's literally no deciding with this, no links. There's also minimal counterclaim grounds and other.
So that doesn't answer the
That's
question.
necessary.
Why is it
Yeah,
need links to or 20?
Yeah, it's necessary to promote the balance of the game. Because
Balance of the
against
game,
app
okay.
bias. And FERCOM means that we can create formative like arguments in order to check that the app effect is
Great. So yeah, that seems to make sense. So on framework, you said that fairness is an investment in whiteness and the things that we read has impact on how we think. You have read several advocacies that explicitly beyond the USFP exists and that extraction will continue. So what makes voting for you a superior option to voting for the other?
Yeah, so if you're getting at the FERCOM argument, we have proven with logical simplification analysis, it's necessary to check against.
Logical extension, that means fairness, but that's not what's going on. So ontology debate?
Yeah.
So, okay, what is our win condition? In terms of, do we have to prove that balance or progress is possible, or do we just have to win the planet's negative provisions?
Well, it's two levels. We have read evidence and like given examples and like analysis proving that the app can never be good for indigenous peoples, so you're not able to say one.
So what is good for indigenous people besides the outlook?
That's we think that the abolition of the USFG is necessary.
So the only thing that solves anti-indigenous violence is
Well,
abolition.
we think that you prove that the plan, like, is not beneficial for them, then you have one that the plan can make it as for indigenous peoples.
Okay.
We have
so
also
the
had
plan
like
is
arguments
good.
about how the plan would be like either be circumvented or not being that beneficial.
Okay, all right, continue.
Consent, the order is going to be the IP dividend counter plan advantage one.
Dividends, one, okay, give me one. Okay. So, dividends.
Yeah.
I got.
All right, Jared, you good? The counterplan solves the case of the net benefit outweighs default sufficiency framing. As long as we prove that it solves a sufficient amount of case, then the net benefit definitely outweighs mutually exclusive balancing exclusive IP right to socially optimal innovation, taxing rights holders who abuse their power to advocate monopolize industries and inflate prices. The money is then used to fund a public domain into UBI, which solves wealth inequality that fuels climate change, nativist conflict, and collapsing societal resilience, which caused extinction. In Turner's case, that was dropped. The net benefit is high. One, the link. The plan increases. The plan's increase in trade marks is weaponized by large corporations. Exclusive rights jack up prices, cause rent seeking, was cost consumers $1 trillion at standing, but two, it outweighs. Will inequality outweighs on probability. Neoliberal wealth disparities balloon our carbon footprint, ensuring extinction from climate change. Turns advantage 1, 2 time frame. Population tension has never been higher. The plan tips scale for full scale. Civil war magnitude. Institutional collapse from poverty sparks diverging to nuclear war, which outweighs. And Turns case from institutional collapse. Not a laundry list. It has precise warrants that the 1AR doesn't get clarification because the 2AC did a bad job. New 1AR answers just justifies lazy debates. They say no impact, but they dropped all of the above extensions. Our reality is just saying that other countries like Chile do not have a strong correlation of inequality and economic inequality, but it doesn't talk about the US. Trump does not thumb zero warrants for a policy that causes economic inequality, but the counterplan has the largest internal link to economic decline. The weak deficit is wrong. The counterplan is better for certainty because it provides a mechanism to balance unpredictable rent seeking and monopoly pricing. The really highlighting does it index taxes. So strike it off your flow. Taxes fail is wrong. Process proves that the overreach deficit is irrelevant. So I'm not even going to answer it. Strike it off your flow. That was the 2AC. But the end part is the only real deficit as per the 2AC. And it's about corporate taxes and the warrant for no solvency. It's about the stock market circumvention, which doesn't apply to IP dividend, but the dividend saw stands 14. Rental companies enable to possess standard rate contract available to driver prices the IP regime. As per the IP rental income, the number of patents will double fees will let no runs the patent trolls do nothing. Sitting for themselves to distribute on the rental carbon once we constitute wage earners to bargain secure income limited rental income. Able to receive the intellectual right to fund the distribute all citizens IP dividend provides a basic and paid in economic security. One firm new bill fails. The plan is mutually exclusive conceding Mando means to strengthen, means they have to strengthen rights, making it easier to acquire for the rights owner. The counterplan is opposite because it weakens IP rights by taxing trademarks. It's cross-applies to urge because it just says strengthen, it means to give strength, which literally doesn't mean anything, but do both is worse. Standing 16. I mean, rental income and I do the technical rental income global servants and prices live server with the public interest. And government on would liberally hand out 10% of the rest of the teaching, and I incentivize the R&D of public income. And per new counterplan severs. Do counterplan the severance of the voter for AFCON neg, but two, it means belonging to. The counterplan doesn't strengthen its protection. Webster and Miriam ND no they belonging to, and strengthen protection means the same thing. Bandy is about pharmaceutical patents. So prefer Mandel. I won't read the card. The counterplan weakens trademark rights by introducing a perpetually increasing IP tax to abusive rights owners until they place their property in the public domain. Prefer one limit allowing a delay and uncertainty for every process topical is worse because assets determine the debate if they don't beyond certainty kick the counterplan and vote neg on presumption, but C ground 6 ground politics innovation trade-offs immediate action delay perm 0 neg ground for DA is not counterplans is arbitrary, it has 0 definitional bias and it's easily exploitable by 2 ways. The intrinsic perm is 0 from the start because we wanted to pick. The perm is functionally intrinsic. Reject the scheme for AFCON. 1, it's arbitrary. There's no clear byline with constants limited intrinsic. 2, scrum perms any generic counterparts like advantage counterparts create rewarding of co-opted to remain net benefits. 3, snowballing infinite plan press. Perms evacuate the burden of rejoinder. 0 is the basis for all counterplans disad. But also theory checks app offense. And we meet their interpretation that a counterplan has an inequality disad that they have not answered. The 1 to textually we picked out of strengthening IP. The net benefit is germane. 2 functions go through a process completely distinct from the plan. And it's plan minus. The net benefit is germane. The counterplan is specific to strengthening IP rights, which is the core of the topic, but trademarks independently create high barriers of entry that cause rent seeking. David Tosik. I took on free words of firms and many rental income proving existing investment. A one name and two rare non-competitive strong trademarks. And independent companies, small firms included effective protecting of massive incomes. For the rest of the effective trademark protection, insurmountable barrier. Advantage 1. No organized crime impact was 15 says that weak state extinction from crime is a fallacy because the most comprehensive study proves that weak states don't escalate. The warrants for that would drop. 2014 index determinal says the nature of organized crime is to maintain under the barrier for armed conflict, which means that even if they want that Chinese organized crime does occur, they have no incentive to escalate. Their answers to Trump were extremely scant. The U.S. Attorney General Bondi says that opposing cannabis legislation is their imperative, but also it causes cognitive issues, and it says that will implicate Trump's approach to federally enforcing rights, which means that the plan is impossible to solve because the cannabis industry declines inevitably. The ecosystem is not resilient. Bailey 20 answers all of their warrants. It says that there's no civilization collapse, answers the knock on. It also says climate change is not the end of the world because it's been happening for decades. There's no extinction of bees. There's a Plumber 15 card. It says that 60% of wolf grown is not from animal pollination. So you know that there's no terminal in the first place, but also they dropped that the weed impact is bunk because cannabis therapy from nuclear links does not prevent extinction.
I'm gonna go with that.
One scenario, yes, organized crime destabilizes regimes in Latin America and Asia, which causes terrorists to take advantage and countries to lash out, which causes instability that escalates trade commerce with the caps. Evidence say, yes, it escalates the plan creates broader structural instability. Trump does not, some candidates, the plan creates a broader structure that allows companies to receive trademarks which stays in place to release the other and agencies enforce trademarks which allows companies to still invest. Now, yes, climate change, it causes war, restructure, etc., which escalate into war and causes extinction. It also causes geoengineering, which is dropped that impedes that causes ecosystem collapse. Daily evidence that they wish to candidates and assertion doesn't matter turns it impacts native population disproportionately because of urban infrastructure or not. Insufficient crime also turns the impact of these gains for disproportionately target marginalized communities. Now, the conceit of defense progressive step advantage shoe disease causes extinction goes on the entire population. Drop the cost of civilizational collapse, which creates market and supply chain issues that independently causes escalation. Now, no dramatic mutations of long incubation time. Check the US insufficient to solve because as long as US survives, that's enough profit motive. It does ensure that it goes global, which ensures solve the deviation. Stuff turns the natives are most affected by the disease. Now, okay. At the top, Notre's case, you're going to be solved, but the plan to solve approximate cost of climate change extinction that ways is reversible and affects most. People which we should prioritize, but prefer the plan for non-extinction reason. Our Maxwell mass suffering NDCA after the Africans, the consequences to the links to the plan's consequences. Neither interest arbitrary or unpredictably shifting the debate away from the one seat become prior question to the mood. We run that unfairly skews the debate toward the negative. The impact is fairness and intrinsically good. It's foundational, but game where both teams expect equal shots to win, especially when they invest in it. If you've gone for drop arguments and not that will be a subject of decision independently presuming against truth absent rigorous testing because speaking options there are offense out turns their education offense there's no living in unfair game ethical prioritization doesn't produce movements all causes like family and friends and factors more often grounds for simultaneously we switch sides and we'll double down and ensure we don't change practices debate doesn't definitely generate movements picking the one you see is irrelevant because they shift the focus to random parts of the one you see lit doesn't check cases like anti-Latin cycle colonialism high here are all possible people we write new articles every day reading using impacts is irrelevant because their intro gets some links to random parts of cards not feeding grounds so we can air support block hacking etc so we're not going to flash picks loose theory why is a voting issue and breaking news is checked by switching that ground fairness is an interest good that's above no structural fairness and our procedural fairness which is solvable but about fairness doesn't create white goodness the card isn't about fairness and they rely on procedural fairness which is key now they correspond by defending protection by beyond the counterclaim through implications one is disprove subjectivity and framework because they really thought colonialism was so bad they wouldn't have done it second fairness outweighs it they thought the next class came prior to parental violent rhetoric and third they have no zero offense the rest are just as balanced as ours all justifications are about fairness with zeros and improves fairness outweighs now firms you both do the plan anti-colonize if you can self-protect marijuana in one instance and abolish all their instances ethical endorsements are entered by purpose of reconciliation against the vast majority of bad ideas next term and that benefits the short-term risk okay link is zero plan reduces extraction in other countries by on-term production of marijuana and enriching international counterfeits crime feels like it's wrong terrorists in Latin America are real which proves the impact is true yes it causes extinction that was on page biodiversity link is wrong because the status quo takes out the environment of unsustainable practices we have to return to its original before we have marijuana second hand so from the ecosystem pharma isn't bad extinction that was about no ontology when progress isn't all or nothing even if settler structures exist for closing political chain locks and balance by presuming settler states are unified which is bound and refied balance with pressures we would have to endorse a frame of realism to prevent as much balance as possible second is the code of complaints we need our declaration and standing our cruise movements are possible the plan is negative for indigenous people for the case extinction and genocide is the worst now the all it doesn't solve the case it's not cruise protection by which doesn't incentivize trademark in addition but only if you have to go to which fails against practical technical circumvention and protect violence against indigenous people and extract it's also impractical or it also causes attention China first direction to perceive the government as collapse we don't solve climate change will already change the point so it's too late the activity can come no just take out the trademark together to commercialization it doesn't cause monopolies it causes brands to work together plans to embolden lobbies and big tech is on unique and they drop there's no impact on the design firms do the counterplan it's plan plus it strengthens protection and then taxes profits that still strengthens the scope of IP which is their one and two Mandela evidence attack and different are just plan plus their evidence assumes the decrease from current protection already exists with the counterpoint still increases protection relative to the status quo in the area of marijuana trademarks. Because marijuana trademarks are literally banned in the status quo law for use in terms that have to be net topical. There are cases around that, like the counterpoint still uses the USFG terms that have to be net topical. The one we need strength doesn't have to be on net, and the inclusion of human strength is sufficient. That's or like it finds it in debate resolution. Counterpoints must be functionally and sexually dependent. We were actually the planet is the only stable station for compensation for competition foods. The one you see involved in the hydro testing, but it's treated groundly justified. The opposite counterpoint, which zero all after offense is your coherent advantages to generic span counterpoints, captain and turn slay every offset seals the app, and generates artificial net benefits which rest fairness.
Trademarks bad, taken out by case because marijuana trademarks defeat innovation.
Yeah, marijuana trademarks defeat innovation. We have scenarios extra.
Net benefit is thumb for thousands of years.
Oh, net benefit is thumb for thousands of years. It's inevitable internationally, which kind of what also happen.
And
I can see it framework because I'm getting offers on the stuff. They said that Tesco was usually the team, but two ways he said that was reaching for the all, and they also said we also run the end process. I mean, that's not a reason to reject the team, and we also drop that comment as it's a logical sensitive comment because it means that we have to test it means that it's a possibility to test the app, and it's a majority to do so. Moving on to the counter plan. The plan increase in trademark rights to weaponize the large corporations, exclusive rights, jacket rent seeking, which costs consumers $1 trillion. That's spending, and that is, and it costs $1 trillion every single year. The counter plan solves the case and mutually exclusive because it balances exclusive rights with socially optimal innovation, taxing rights to abuse of power to aggregate, minimize industry and implications, and move that to the public domain. Meaning we are arguing at exclusive rights to be allowed to take it away by using taxes and put it into the public domain. That is used to fund the UBI, which also will equality that fuels climate change, and it's always like lavish sustainability, which costs things that was June 24th, the kind of balance cycle impact the perfect political system. If you're able to incentivize innovation by creating self-creating rights and allowing to take it away from people who are abusive of their rights, meaning that we solve for both inequality and also solving for the plan because we still enact the plan. Instead, the efficiency framework, we just have to prove that the counter plan solves enough of the case and win it, and then that benefit out by this one undecisive between and you default. Then if you win enough of the counter plan solves enough of the plan, that means that you go neg, and then something that benefit, they say that the net benefit is non-unique because big tech is increasing in this flow, but that is our uniqueness, that is our uniqueness for a region. It's something that I'm point now. I think protections are the primary one that big tech achieves. Don't suppose as well inequality because they create monopolies that have a price and perpetuity the counter plan. It's huge tech against that because I feel it's the primary way that mobilizes them and outweighs the inequality, outweighs the probability is happening there now. Do you look at what the space balloon or carbon filter by allowing the carbon technology to do things like create more emissions to the big factories and production, which causes climate change again, means that their impact would happen faster than it's magnified by the public fully internal linkage. High frame for all the little incentive government higher. The way to scale to the full civil war, trying to bring it's happening now because populism is increasing now. Magnitude introduced the collapse of poverty, strike the version of nuclear war, which outweighs in turn case institutional collapse and saw modulus and has besides towards the warrior. This again nuclearification didn't do it anyways. And they said that no impact they dropped the ammo effect. Governments for other countries like Kelly and having strong effect inequality, but not the US. And Trump does not solve they dropped the impact because they did not send anything. It means that it definitely outweighs the climate change or any risk of organized crime. The organized crime will cause institutional collapse as well as they want to cut the straight down out of the nuclear war, causes civil war, which would be escalated to the version 91. Trump would attack another country, which would be US into nuclear war, which completely dismisses the environment, also draws in other countries, which outweighs the impact of organized crime and competition. We made their interpretation for competition because the counterplans will technically and falsely competitive at first. Texture the counterplans to pick out and strengthen the production of IP rights. He conceded that strengthening needs to make the rights easier to acquire for the rights owner on the which means the counterplans are opposite because the plan because it makes it harder for trademark owners to get the rights because it taxes trademarks and makes it stuff that they do not have exclusive power. They also conceded that aids being belongs to the counterplans to strengthen the trademark with means of the perks are impossible to go for. And two functionally the counterplans and inequality is something that to the plan. The plan to increase the trademark rights of companies and large corporations that will develop specifically the Jacob 6 parts of the trademark into monopolistic prices and economic inequality, which is why anti-police only an eye can solve for inequality and problems for carbon combinations that you can reject the team on the ground and the purpose functionally intrinsic. One is arbitrary, there's no clear viable what constitutes is limited, which is that technically regrets and still to all choosing two scale for any generic counterparts of the unit counterpart if you put it for to call the new domain that benefits and active background, trades and clash, and we so on the finished terms. I feel split plus plans and documents of version of Jordan and zeros are basis for all counterparts and just that the act does not have to make the actual process of counterparts to beat it and get kills background and also answer the article game which is better separate engagement real world confidence. They said that we have other counterplanes like offset and counterplanes like offset or generic necessity, but there's zero background issue. Refuse that this counterplane specifically for a key person and that's the actual the actual core content of the public whether IP is going to be contested and fees that they do not get their equivalent to their net benefits to their law because their net benefits to their law was that we have to contest the act specifically that the next most feature may and their checks out opportunity their termination and also got them that's so no matter what from the extent it is not justifiable and fictionally we picked out of chicken idea that the benefits remains to the public and because of possibility to differ from the plan and the fees that we definitely need and then the benefits remain the counterplan is specific to strengthen the IP operations support at the time means that zero office because the net benefits to all their interests is that we don't connect IP and first ready generic processes which is not the plan. Keep checking that this counterplan is key for net grant to test the viability of having exclusive economic rights. It tests the viability of
they dropped the dissent.
they said that they dropped the dissent, but they dropped that to the benefits to the dissent, which always case in terms of the non God. They said that current you don't have to be told this is completely new in the 1 year perspective off the floor with his voice because it delays case because he's attached to the debate that I will be planning no reason for why the office time with the best we go off. You know that they drop office outweighs the current you both fails to drop the net benefit
You could reject the team on competition.
So you can reject on competition even if you don't buy the kind of person design.
153. One.
Cover the ballot because the one year spent over a minute on it. I think we only read on the computer for the last 20 seconds. This means that she's not wasting any beyond it. This that which is not unique and requires the comment. We don't judge treatment to an not instruction to get comment. So we from each student comment automatically go from the override. How is that thing is Chinese or students right or treated out ready. New municipality, culture, citadely, extensionally. This is the cause global municipality. We're ready to say that it escalates military competence in crush versus immediate outweighs any scenario we say not less than how it only has six more or how any just like AI or tech or anything because continue to fast the case outweighs now. Go to the comment from the start with permission to the comment they have conceded a crucial unique expression of the ground. There's massive and one ground this year like a cafe, like your Jackson program, each of which lays every half finally the doctrine in the sort of ground that you've heard again used, which is the try or die there, transformation of unnatural reality justifies in the office cabinet of faith. That makes it impossible to be further. The two are missed about here. We're not technical and functional competition. We're saying that the government is not functionally competitive. It's a way that the plan can be done. Look, Ross, this timeline has two parts. One of them does the plan. One of them adds a tax in addition to the plan. That doesn't make it together, right? Just because you do some IP and then weaken it in other areas, that does not make it competitive. The two are marginally processed by the right stuff they've conceded or the explanation of mandate or which they explicitly said that in one area the mandate mandates the scope of the countermand, i.e. if the countermand is relative to status quo, which is what Rich was getting at in one of the prospects, then it is unnecessary than the rights. Well, think about it this way: rights holders will get more rights post countermand than the status quo because marijuana trademarks are banned in the status quo. The thing that even if they get a tax, they still get more rights. That tax is an addition to the plan, not a way to pick out of it. It's not blind by madness in the two. That's zero actual explanation that its definition they didn't extend it was also zero. The government still uses the USFG and their part also just says that relating to is enough. So it also goes our way because we do something related to IPR. IPR definition doesn't matter because the mandate also goes affirmative. It says that a net increase of IPR protection compared to the status quo is sufficient. Now, probable competition is bad just by saying that office that makes being affirmative impossible. Zero and negative is wrong. They're agreed. Functional limits that you are on one is a street kind of, it was limit the app to a specific doctrine, the two just asserts that it doesn't solve, but it does, it forces the parties to overturn important court cases, and links this go over just which forces the parties to controversy second is fourth law, every app to make litigation happen, which makes it difficult for opponents to beat it, unless the opponent has a reason why they exit a judicial efficiency, which is a further functional limit, third is the campaign, negative teams and have a genuine disagreement ID without, and have you link the opponent this year, which means that it is offense for us. Now, that's reality, framing issue, the tutor had no offense, even if they said that makes an offense to no impact, this was unwarranted, originally explicit that offense, was deleted from the ground in the 1 yard, negative could always stay straight and true to one area, and weaken another area, I use the planet pretty much, or during the sloppy CSP kind of line, which obviously does not compete. The second argument is that it's not excluded and it's new, it's obviously not new, they just like net Kelly competition in the 1 hour, so we obviously get new 1 year answers, anything else, anything else, also we obviously get new answers, it is not a reason to reject the thing that was rejected, the only thought or vision of competition is still good for about. Now, the only other thing that has answers that it's certainly not unique, inequality has existed for thousands of years, and the two are not named one scenario, given the scenario is technically a head to neck, you cannot explain what countries that play or what intellectual cost as a result of inequality, the two are very good, and asserting that inequality causes a bunch of things, but they have no explanation how those things cause extinction, whereas we have a clear explanation of how Chinese program, but that's makes them cause conflict, it does evidence certainly because in that way, when they can see the two in some case, yes, oh yes, it is non-unique, inequality exists since the earliest human civilization, but they have no reason why any country would escalate, and have not even a scenario for war, so you cannot put on it, outweigh some probabilities wrong, it is certainly not unique when they have conceded 100% case, which certainly takes it out, also no justification, means that they cannot go for a textual and functional competition to make this go, it doesn't matter, we're not textual and functional competition, no turning the case, durable fiat solves, which is drop the case, and the other counterline, because the opponent is trademark, impact, only doesn't roll back trademarks, just, or evidence on Chinese oak, they have no explanation about inequality, exacerbate Chinese oak, warm climate change, corporations polluting is relevant to corporations polluting, the affirmative is internal sustainability, because only marijuana can make our culture sustainable, which is another conceded, only does it, let's talk about athletic diversity, rewards and drowning you, but the university should strike it, but it also doesn't matter because the affirmative still always like I was saying, diversity nuclear conflict. What? Rights don't have exclusive, they can be a goal, that's why you practice. One or didn't read a single definition as the two are really new on the explanation before they just abuse the rights. Other single people were kind of success is that one competition with facing Apple Plus see that lack of advantage from reaching out, which means that you may certainly plus affirmative, and I think because the affirmative cannot construct coherent advantages on the topic. The other thing about diversity of was that well, there are two impacts on case that certainly outweigh most of the two are warranting was new, but it doesn't matter because you cannot judge it kind of so there's no fiat in this that even this year fiat in this that there are two rapid in the case, that term you can see that variable is key and only just wants to say what. Two are basically dropping the count back. They have no definitions, just finalize one implemented, so you must go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, does the app conference find the game? Oh, okay, very good. Yeah.